Hello, Professor Turner. My name is Paul Eckert and I am a finance major here at Missouri State University. I am in your Management 286 class, and this is my final project, the YouTube video. My topic that I have recently submitted to you was over the academic impact of being unprepared for college due to the lack of influence of high school education. Now, there's many aspects to high school as far as sports and friends and just the education part and just all these activities going along, and students are really forced to try to get involved. I myself was involved in many things in high school, and one being golf and just different student council activities and all of this, so I knew at first hand what these students were going through. But I think most parents try to stress to their kids to get involved, and that's great, but they lose focus on the education side of everything. Now, it is very difficult for a high school student to focus on their education because they really don't know where they're going to go to the university, like say their freshman or sophomore year of high school or anything like that, because their teachers are not preparing them well enough to continue their education on to maybe college or a trade school or just furthering their education in any way. Now I've conducted many studies. I looked at statistics as well as done personal interviews at my high school that I attended in St. Louis, Rockwood Summit High School. Now I found out many things. Some students, like I thought, were ready for college and they felt confident, they knew where they're going. And then, on the counter effect, there was more students that had no idea what they wanted to major in, what university they wanted to, or what college classes even consisted of. Now, this is due to the lack of responsibility and not committing the faculty of the high school to do their duties and really concentrate on focusing on preparing these kids for their future education. Now, in my personal interviews at Rockwood Summit, I found out that out of 50 students that I interviewed, 70% of the students said they were not ready for high school or to graduate high school and to continue their education. 70% were not prepared. Now, this is a big chunk of high school seniors that I interviewed that weren't ready. That's terrible. They didn't know where they were going, didn't know what they wanted to major in. They did not feel comfortable at leaving their parents' house and going out on their own to try to succeed at college, in college level classes. They were not prepared. Now, 30% said, yes, I know where I'm going and I know what I'm majoring in, but I don't know the full dorm experience and staying on campus and living on my own and all of that. I believe there should be a college class or a high school class that teaches about the college responsibilities as well as the education part of college. Somebody to say, hey, you're going to have to go get your own food, go get your own groceries, go here, do your own laundry, do all these responsibilities that some kids never have had in living in their parents' house. Faculty at Rockwood Summit felt ashamed and embarrassed about my study and finding out that 70% of their students were not ready to go to college. I also looked at statistics, and one main statistic that I focused on came from the ACT exam results from 2009 to 2011. This 3-year period, millions of students nationwide took this test, and I looked at the results on first hand. And just like my personal interviews at Rockwood Summit, my interviews were right online with the national statistics of this ACT prep and ACT test website. Now, the ACT is a standardized test to let you know if you're ready for college classes, and it's broken down into 4 sections. One section is English, one section is math, another section is science, and another section is reading. Now, these are 4 very important parts of high school education. They're 4 core classes, and then you take your electives. Now, these 4 core classes should be your most important classes that you take in high school because they will be repeated and further educated in college. Now let's take a look at these statistics right behind me. As you can see, the year, the number of students, the 4 categories, and then the percentage of students meeting all 4 requirements. Now let's just take a look at year 2009, for example. In 2009, 1,196,336 students took the ACT. Now out of that, over 1 million kids, 70 people, out of those 1 million kids, 70% were ready for English. Math, 43%. Less than half of the kids that took the ACT in high school in 2009, less than half were ready for a math class. 54% in reading were ready for a college reading class, such as English 1, 2, or maybe even they wanted to major in literature. 54% of students were not ready, or 54% of students were ready to take on their college reading class. 27% of science took the science and passed and were ready for science classes. Now, if you look at that, at the curriculum at Missouri State, you're required to take 2 science classes. 27% out of the 1 million people that taken it nationwide were ready for those 2 science classes, meeting the requirements of those 2 science classes. To me, that is embarrassing to the whole nation about this test and this whole process in high school. Now, if you look farther over here, 22% of the students in 2009 that have taken the ACT met all 4 requirements of English, math, reading, and science. 22% of all those students met all the requirements, were ready for college based on this ACT test. Now, this is just one test that you have to take, but many universities pass out scholarships, they play sports, and all this other stuff based on your ACT score. Let's look at 2010 and 2011. It went down in 2010, 68%, 43%, about the same in math. Reading, it went up 1%. In science, it went up 1% in 2010. Now, meeting all 4, it did go up 1% in 2010. Now, that's an improvement. Maybe something changed in the procedures of high school. Maybe these teachers thought, hey, we really need to figure something out and really make sure that every kid is ready to graduate. I don't know. It's still not a good statistic because 23% of all the students that took the ACT in 2010 said they were ready. Now, this is just one test, like I've said in the past, but it really is focused mainly on universities and students trying to further their education. In 2011, it was the same thing, a little bit higher in every category, and 25% of students. A quarter of the students that took the ACT in 2011, a quarter of them were ready for classes, college classes. Now, I feel as if something really needs to be changed if a quarter of the students taking the standardized test that truly is supposed to say, yes, you're ready for college, or no, you're not, 25% of all students met all 4 requirements so they could pass a college class. Something must be done about this problem. Now, in all of these statistics, the national average for the 3 years was 22% of all students met all 4 readiness standards for college. 22% in 3 years. That's less than a quarter of students that were ready for college classes. This test said that yes, they are ready for classes. Now let's move on to furthering their education and after they graduate. Our society keeps building and building and building and getting smarter technology-wise, better processes with food and clothes, and everybody's trying to be more efficient in bettering our society. Now, if we keep our procedures in high school the same way, and a quarter of the students, as I showed behind me, a quarter of the students were ready to take on college classes, what does that do for our society? We continue to poorly educate our future generations to come, and that is going to affect our society in the near future. Say in 10 years, these quarter of the kids come out of college and get a job. That was only a quarter of the population that has taken the ACT test. So if only a quarter passed, we haven't done our jobs in educating these future generations and sending them and persuading them to better their education at college, at a trade school, at getting a job. We're not going to be continuing to evolve our society enough to make it on this planet. We're going to run out of resources. We're not going to have the knowledge to save resources, build renewable resources. We're not going to have the knowledge for any of that. And that scares me due to this one test that is so important by many colleges across the nation. So I just want to conclude to giving suggestions and saying how I feel on what colleges should do in order to relieve some stress on students by taking this test, and also by furthering their education in high school so it makes the transition from high school to college easier. One suggestion is just to change the procedures that high schools have to follow in order to prepare themselves. I know at Rockwood Summit when I graduated in 2010, I had to buy my ACT book and buy the class to go and to better prepare myself for the ACT. I spent hundreds of dollars on books and classes, and it only raised my ACT score 1 point. Now, I don't feel as if that's right that I went through all the trouble and all the studying and hard work to raise my ACT score 1 point over the total. I believe there could be a better way implemented, better procedures that the high school could have done to better prepare me as well as my fellow students in making sure that we were prepared for the ACT. Second, I think they should change the curriculum. Maybe the curriculum isn't teaching us everything that the ACT thinks they are teaching us. Maybe we need to change some of the teachers. Maybe they're not qualified to teach as much. Maybe we need to change the technology, maybe update the technology to projectors as we have at Missouri State here. I know it's expensive and the funds have to come from somewhere, but maybe they could work on fundraising a little bit harder and truly make sure that we're getting our education as best as we can and being successful in furthering our education. And last, maybe we just need to motivate the students a little bit better. Maybe it's not the faculty and procedures, maybe it's the students slacking off a little bit. So maybe disciplinary actions can be taken to better our education and make the education systems more successful. Thank you, Ms. Turner, and have a great summer.